Hey guys, I had a GED student who was struggling a little bit with writing equations of perpendicular lines. So let's take a look at example 4 first, which is a little on the straightforward side, and then we'll look at a complicated example. So number 4 said, write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that is perpendicular to this line, perpendicular, and contains the point -4, -1. So I'll just remind you, this is the key thing that we have to understand. Perpendicular lines have opposite slopes in two ways. Oh, spelling is hard. Hold on one second. Here we go. Perpendicular lines have opposite slopes in two ways. Basically, their slopes will be opposite reciprocals, meaning opposite meaning different sign, and reciprocals meaning like the flip of a fraction. So we can see that if our line is perpendicular to this line, we're going to take a look at this line's slope, and then we're going to get the opposite reciprocal. So let's do that. This line is the line y equals x minus 5. So what's its slope? Remember, the slope is the m, the number multiplying with x. And you might say, hey, there's no number there. It's 0. No. Remember that when you don't have a coefficient out front, how many x's is that? That's just one x. So we have a slope here of 1 on this line. But our line is perpendicular, meaning it's going to have the opposite sign, and it's going to be a reciprocal. But the interesting thing, and 1 is the only number that behaves this way, if you flip 1 upside down, you're just going to get 1 over 1 again. And it's the only number that behaves that way. And so basically the slope here is just -1. Okay, so we know our line has a slope of -1. We know one more thing about our line. They told us that our line contains this point. Now, a couple of different ways you can go from there, but my favorite way is just to stick to the slope-intercept equation of a line. So I'm going to bust out y equals mx plus b. Because I know 3 of these numbers, I know my m. We figured out our slope needed to be -1. I know an x value and a y value. You know, a point, give us an x and a y value. We can use this sucker plugging in y, m, and x in order to solve for b. So let's do that. So my y value here is -1, and that's going to be equal to, we said my m was -1, and my x is -4. Those two things are multiplying because they're shoved together, and that's plus b. Let's go ahead and do the arithmetic here. So I get -1 is equal to -1 times -4 is +4 plus b. Subtracting 4 on both sides. And -1, if I'm already in debt 1 and I go down 4 more, I'm going to be at -5. And that is equal to b. And so now I know my slope, my m, slope, hard to spell again, and my b, my y-intercept. I have all the information I need to write the equation of this line. Remember, we just need a slope, an m, and a y-intercept, a b, to write something in slope-intercept form. So once again, I'm going to come over here and copy y equals mx plus b. But this time, all I'm going to plug in are my m and my b. That's what makes for a specific line. So y is equal to -1x plus b, so plus -5 is just the same as -5. And this, of course, is true, but not done, because mathematicians never leave a coefficient of 1. We're just too lazy, so I'm just going to call that y is equal to -x minus 5. Okay, so one example of a perpendicular line done. Now, when does this get tricky? Oh, let's take a look at the next example. Okay, this one says, write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that is perpendicular to the line x equals 3 and contains the point -2, 4. So once again, we learn that perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite. And we said they're opposite in two ways. The sign and their reciprocals. But take a look at this. This x equals 3 is not in that standard slope-intercept form. It's not in that form y equals mx plus b. And so what am I supposed to do to find the slope? I can't see slope. Well, you are supposed to have this type of line memorized, and that's the problem. Anytime we have to memorize something in math, It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. But notice that I see x is equal to 4. What I'm saying here, if I'm calling this a line, x is equal to 4, is that x is always equal to 4. Regardless of what y is, x is equal to 4. So let's say if y was 0, x would be 4. With y 1, x would still be 4. With y, I don't know, -3, x would still be 4. This is the equation of a vertical line. Vertical lines have an undefined slope, so we're not going to be able to change its sign and flip it upside down. That doesn't even make sense. But what we can realize is that anything perpendicular to a vertical line is going to be horizontal. Again, anything, and let me just draw my little perpendicular sign here, because I'm doing this straight up by definition. What's perpendicular to a vertical line? A horizontal line. They cross at a right angle. And so I know that horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Okay, so I'm going to have a line, my perpendicular line is going to have a slope of 0, meaning it's going to be a horizontal line. You know, if you plug in, and hopefully you don't have to do this every time, hopefully you memorize this for horizontal lines as well. But if you plug in 0 for the slope, 0 of x, whatever x is just going to zero out, and you get this line that y is equal to b. Y is equal to the y-intercept. So basically, for just like a vertical line is x is equal to a number, a horizontal line looks like y is equal to a number. Y is equal to a number. And what number? My y-intercept. So you can take a look at here. This -2 is an x value, and this 4 is a y value. So this is where I am crossing the y-intercept. This is my y value 4. So I'm going to have just the line y is equal to 4. And if you don't believe me, you're like, how did that ninja magic happen, Kate? Let's bust out a graph to take a look at it. So what two things do we know about our line? We know that our line goes through the point -2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So -2, 4. And we just learned that it's horizontal. So that's definitely the line y is equal to 4. All right, that was a super tricky example. If you think that's hard, that was hard. That's as hard as I have for these perpendicular line things. So hopefully you won't get that challenging of a style of one on the GED, but just in case, I suggest you practice it a bit. If you have any questions about this or any other GED math topic, be sure to drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it.